So let's have a look at my definition and see if you can fill in the gaps. So it's the process of developing and using the K, the what, the A, and the S necessary to understand and manage E. Any ideas that you've got there? Let's see if you've got the word there and no. Okay, this word hasn't come up on any of your definitions. The first word is using the knowledge, the attitudes, and the skills. And this one you've obviously got to manage emotions, to develop positive relationships, and to make responsible decisions. Okay. Bago, social emotional learning is a methodology that helps students comprehend their emotions, feel emotions, and demonstrate. Yeah, empathy for sure. Definitely has that involved. And let me just look at the one above that. Yeah, okay. Learn how to manage Iwan. I like that word manage. All right. And I think you've seen the word manage here. Some of you wrote the word control. Now, I think if you're controlling your emotions, that's fine. But what it isn't is trying to control somebody else's emotions. All right, because I don't think we're able to do that. I think we're able to control our own emotions and manage them. And I like that word, manage one. And I think you'll see that here. As I said, this is from castle.org. If you go there, you'll find loads and loads of resources on social emotional learning. And we'll be sharing the slides with you as well so that you can go back and look at these. So this is a very common, simple definition. Let's have a look now at in a bit more detail at what these are. Now, before we do that, let's also explore about why that's important. All right, why is social emotional learning important? And what we're going to do in this one is we're going to put ourselves in other people's situation. All right, so we're going to what we call an idiom in English, step into their shoes. So I want you to imagine you are somebody else and you're in their shoes, you're in their situation. And we're going to look at two different kinds of people. We're going to look at a teacher. All right, so I want you to imagine that you are a teacher. That should be quite easy for you because I imagine you're all teachers. And also I want you to think about students. All right, now I've got a picture there. They're all girls. There's no reason for that. It's just that when I was looking for pictures of Indonesian students, it was hard to find a mix. So that's the reason. Okay, so if you imagine you're a teenage girl, a teenage boy, right? You're going to think about that. It shouldn't be too long ago that you were a teenager yourself, but it's often difficult to kind of empathize with how we were rather than the students that you teach. All right, so we're going to step into their shoes. First of all, we're going to step into the shoes of this lovely teacher. All right, I'm going to give you some questions to answer. So I want us to discuss, and we'll discuss this in the chat room. Okay, we don't need to go into the breakout rooms. And give me your ideas, and I'll give you some time to think about this. But here's the first one, all right? You've received an email from a parent that has made you quite upset. I think we've all probably received feedback from a parent, maybe through an email, maybe through a parent-teacher discussion. How do you respond? How do you respond to this? Let's imagine actually you're a new teacher. You're new to teaching. Let's say in your first or second year of teaching. So you're maybe not so experienced. You've received an email from a parent, made you upset. What do you do? Okay, that's a good solution, Toto. I like that idea. Go on, Donda. Yeah, get to the root of the problem. Valentina, very truthful. Probably might be upset, right? You might have a bit of a cry straight away. And then what would you do, Valentina? After getting your emotions out, what would you do? I sometimes notice in my experience of working in teachers' rooms that teachers might blame the parents or blame the child before they do anything else. They might try and deflect the blame. Some teachers might actually mirror the emotion. Okay, so The email. Yeah, okay, good for asking the questions. Calm down, see what Maria is saying, what the problem is. But some teachers might mirror the emotion and they might send an angry email back in that way. Next one. You're in a teacher's meeting, all right? And your boss says something or your fellow colleagues say something and you totally disagree. You want to shout out, but how do you respond? How would you deal with this? Yeah, and again, I'm not going to, with the answers in the chat, I'm not going to say you're right or wrong. This is the way that you would deal with it. That's fine. That's up to you. I'm not here to tell you how to behave. I'm just here to try and find out what it is you would do. Fitri, very nice answer. I think that's similar to probably, hopefully, what I would do. Stay calm, Fajar. Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think that's what I would try and do as well. And then the last one, what I would like to ask you. So you're teaching this time, or the teacher is teaching this time. And the teenage learners, we've all had this, I'm sure. They're being disruptive, maybe talking out of turn, just being silly. How do you respond to this? Talk politely, Ria. Valentina. Okay, good. Yeah, so I think what we're trying to, what we would do here as adults, and I can see in the chat, we try and stay calm, we try and empathize, which is a word that we saw before, with the other people, try and understand the situation and then deal with it. All right, we deal with it, hopefully, because we understand the norms, we understand how society works. We understand that if we stood up and shouted out how we felt, that people would think we were a bit strange and they wouldn't respond to us very well. If we sent an angry email back to the parent, that wouldn't solve the problem. That would just make the problem even worse. And we understand these norms. We manage our emotions. For teenagers, this is a bit different. So let's have a look at teenagers now. So let's go back, okay, step back now into your teenager's shoes. I'm sure you don't want to do that literally. I know I wouldn't want to step into my teenage daughter's shoes, but let's think about how they feel. Let's think about what they're going through. All right. So do you agree or disagree with these statements? Okay, the first statement. Now, remember, you are a teenager. Okay, you're a teenager. You're not a teacher. You are a teenager. So my hormones make me act as I do. Do you agree or disagree with this? Fajar agrees. All right. Agree. Toto disagrees. A lot of people agreeing here. All right. So teenagers are acting on their emotions. All right. And the reason we're looking at this, actually, just to go back, I think many adults, many adult teachers that I work with, they find teenagers probably their most difficult class to teach. Even though everybody's been a teenager, it's very difficult to understand, isn't it, what teenagers are going through. So that's why we're going back and looking at this and see if we can. Next one. Bagus disagrees as well. So only a couple of, most people agree. Okay, so B now. Let's look at B, all right. Cognitive development is more important for me, a teenager, a teenage person, than social emotional development. All right. What do you think? So we're disagreeing with this. People are disagreeing. All right. Lots of people disagreeing. Cool. Valentina at the end. Marlena, Sonia disagreeing. Okay. All right. So a lot of disagrees there. And then the last one. Me, my teenage brain is making more connections. Do you agree? Do you disagree? So Fitri started this one with agree, and we've got, okay, lots of people agreeing, okay, in the chat. All right, so I'm going to give you some answers this time. The first one, when we're looking at the stepping into the teacher's shoes, I couldn't answer because that's how you are, but I'm going to give you some answers now. We're going to look at this in a little bit of detail in terms of the teenage brain in a moment. Now, the first one, my hormones make me act as I do. This is no, this is disagree. All right. My hormones don't increase during the period of being a teenager. Sorry, they do increase. The hormones do increase, but they don't determine how we are as an adolescent teen. So behavior is a result of changes in our brain, our neurological changes. All right, and we'll look at that in a moment at what those changes are. In B, our cognitive development is more important than social emotional development. And again, this is no, you all got that correct, actually. So strong social emotional skills has been shown in research to increase academic achievements. All right. Teens like to learn from people they respect, as they are still trying to work out who they are as themselves. All right. So they're still working out their own identity. So they want to learn from people, not from books, let's say. And my brain is making more connections. No, it isn't making any more connections. So during the adolescent years, the brain is removing connections. It's what we call pruning. It's clipping connections that are not needed. So it's already made billions and billions of connections, and it's taking away those connections depending on what their interests are, what their passions are. And this I've read it from research. As I said, I'm not a doctor. This is our way of being more effective as we get older. We want to go through this stage to make sure that our brain is efficient. Okay, it doesn't have too much information, and this then changes who we are. Sort of identifies who we are, where we are in our life. How our brain works, the order of our brain. If we just keep building connections all the time, it would be overload. So it's taking away some of those connections and defining who we are. So it's a very, very important part of our life. Now, the brain at this stage, as you know, is under construction, all right? And the teenagers are experiencing lots of physical changes. Their cognitive development is still underway. The brain is responsible for judgment, reason, empathy, which is all still developing. And teenage learners are finding out who they want to be and how they fit into our society and our teaching. So what do they think with? Their decisions are emotion driven. All right. So this is the brain. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I said I'm not a doctor, but I have done a little bit of research into this. So the limbic system, this is the blue part here, is responsible for emotions. All right. And is already developed. And this is the reason that adolescents, that teenagers, do more with their emotions than they do with their the prefrontal cortex, our cognitive side. This is still developing, and it will still develop until into their 20s. All right. This is their logic, their reason, and their impulse. So that is why our teenagers will do things on emotion and not on thinking, because they're still developing those thinking skills. They're still developing that making choices, good choices. Whereas if they go with their emotions, their limbic system, which is developed, they're more likely to get an answer. So that is the reason why. It's kind of due to the development of the brain. And this emotional limbic system is super important, and that's what we want to try and help them with. So we want to try and link the head and the heart, of course. We often think of thinking from the heart is our limbic system, right? These are our emotions. We talk about thinking from the head and thinking from the heart. And just to finish off the theory side, here's a nice quote from Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman is a psychologist and an author. He wrote the book on social emotional learning, and it's worth having a little research about later if you're interested. So how are you feeling now after a little bit of research? Are you feeling mad, sad, okay, happy? How are you feeling? Let me know in the chat. How are you getting on? I'll shout it out. Good. We got some happies. We got some okays. Okays. Happy. 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 Okay. Okay. Good. 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 All right. So let's have a look at how we do this in Gateway 3rd edition. Oh, I should say not Gateway 3rd edition. Gateway to the World, which is the kind of the 3rd edition, but it has got a new title, Gateway to the World. Okay, Valentine, I'm sorry about your signal. Unfortunately, I can't do much about that. Now, social emotional learning, as I said, is very important. And how do we do it in our courses? Well, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you. So you'll see here, in this section of the actual course book, we have an area dedicated to social emotional learning, cell that you can see here. And it's done through video. All right, we're going to look at the importance of video in a moment. I'm going to show you a video. I'm going to tell you why using video with teenage learners is very important. So we've got the topic here, attitudes to the young and the old. The video is called How Does It Feel to Be Old? And the social emotional learning is to keep an open mind. All right, and this is very, very important, isn't it? To keep an open mind and try and understand how other people are feeling. And then we also have another video here called Right and Wrong Actions. The video is called Hacked. And the social emotional learning is Being Considerate. So these are different tasks that we can do, or different skills that we can use based on the topic of what we're studying in our course book. And it's a really nice way to implement them without having to think too much about them, because it's already done for us. Now, I'm going to give you a little test here before we move on. And here you can see some of the topics on the left-hand side. So we've got nonverbal communication, and the video is animal communication. So which of these tasks do you think would fit with animal communication? And on your handout, you can, whoopsie-daisy, on your handout, you can match them. I believe they're on your handout. So you can match these topic areas, match them together on your handout. So what do we think? Animal communication, non-verbal communication. What do you think this would match with? Any guesses? It's kind of tricky, but the reason it is tricky is because I want you to think. So let's have a look. I'll show you the answers and you can check them on your sheet. So nonverbal communication is all about having confident body language. Of course, if you're communicating non-verbally, you're using your body to communicate, right? Attitudes, popularity of online video. So you have attitude, the influence, whether it's TV or online video. Listening to others. You have to listen when you're in a work environment. And then creativity, all about art and books and things like that. So you might have been able to match those with the words. So these are the kind of things that students are going to be doing in the class, and they're going to be developing these areas of social emotional learning. Now, within the areas of social emotional learning, we have the tasks, but we also have these competencies. And we have 5 competencies here. And again, these are taken from Castle. So with the first one, self-awareness, all the way over to responsible decision-making. These are our 5 key areas that we want to develop with our teenage learners. But what do they mean? Okay, let us have a check and test about what they mean. So I'm going to send you away now to a word wall activity that I'd like you to complete. Let me just pull up the link for you. And I want to see if you can match them. So go to the link in the chat box, click on the link, or you can follow the link there or scan the QR code and spend a couple of minutes and check your understanding of these different areas of social emotional learning. Okay, and I'll give you a few minutes to do that, and I'll be checking that as you go through. Let me just pull that down. Okay, Felix Chan. Xian, very good. Thank you very much for your answers. Just check I haven't given you the answers on here. No? Okay, good. And 5 correct answers. The winner is Felix Xian. Very good. Esther also got 5 correct in 42 seconds, just outside. And then Ria got 5 correct with a time of 49.8. Excellent work. Very fast. Okay, so let's check our answers all together. So have a look now at the screen. Good job, everybody. So self-awareness. You can write this on your handout now as well. Self-awareness is that ability to recognize emotions, one's own emotions, I should say. So the first activity we did, the mood chart activity, this was an activity where we're raising self-awareness. All right, definitely developing self-awareness with that kind of activity. It means that students are able to answer questions. What are you good at in this class? How do you know you're good at it? So they're able to reflect. And when they don't know something, they're able to ask what they should do. Students who are self-aware are able to identify, understand their own emotions, and recognize their strengths and their weaknesses. And they're also able to label their emotions and those emotions of others. And then analyze and recognize these emotions. So very important. Next one was self-management. Self-management with the activity, the word wall activity that we've just done, that was developing self-management. What do we need to do to achieve a learning goal for the classroom? How do you move towards your goal? What skills or attitudes do you need? When do you lose focus? What do you do if you're stuck or you're stressed or you can't do the activity? This is all about self-management. It's about setting goals. It's about working towards those goals that you've set. It's about monitoring your progress. It's about becoming autonomous as a learner as well. Next one was social awareness. All right, so the activity we did about stepping in the shoes of a teacher or a student, this was about developing social awareness. It's about developing the ability to think about someone else or something from a different perspective, not just from your own perspective. So when you're working in a group, in a classroom, how do you make sure that everyone is represented? How do you make sure that it's fair for all students in the class or in your group? That's you as a teacher. And then you in the group, how do you make sure that all your friends are represented? Predicting feelings, being able to understand how your friends might feel if you do this. Understanding their reactions to things is all about social awareness. Next one was relationship skills. All right. So I asked you to come up with a combined definition of social emotional learning. This was very much a relationship skills process. Some of you might be working with people that you didn't know, that you never met before. And this is how you then bring people into your group, how you manage with them, how you cooperate with people, whether you know them or you don't know them. This is all about 21st century skills. If you think about that, collaboration and cooperation within groups. And then the last one is responsible decision making. So again, this was looking at the combined definition of social emotional learning. You have to work together. You have to consider each other's ideas. You have to then make a decision based on that information. And this is all about making those responsible decisions. Now, this could be academic decisions or it could be social decisions. They're very similar in that respect. So when you're working in groups, how do you make good choices? How do you make effective decisions? And these are the kind of things we want to be able to create tasks that practice these skills and recognize that these tasks practice these skills. So how do we do this in Gateway second edition, Gateway third edition, sorry, the Gateway to the World? I keep saying this wrong. I'll get told off. So we use these competencies as people, as teachers, as husband, as wives, as friends, as brothers, as sisters. We use them all the time as neighbors, and they truly are the gateway to success in our lives. All right. If we fail in these, to use these effectively, we're probably going to come up with some kind of conflict. All right. So it's not just about emotions. It's about making good choices and managing relationships as well. Now, as I showed you earlier in Gateway to the World, we look at this holistically. We bring it into the course itself. We want to develop well-rounded learners. We want these social emotional learning competencies to be critical to what the learners are developing, so that they're better in the classroom and better outside of the classroom, that they're more open-minded, that they're more respectful, and they work better in their local community and also the global community as well. So by embedding these tasks into the classroom, we're able to achieve that. So we'll have a look now at how they are actually embedded into every single task within the great learners, great thinkers part of the course. Before we do that, how are you feeling now? You feeling okay? Feeling happy? Feeling sad? Let me know. Okay. Happy. You can obviously write other adjectives if you want to. You might be hungry. You might be hungry. You might be fine. You might be great. It's up to you. You can write whatever you want to in there. Okay, let's have a look. So I'm going to use a unit of Gateway to the World. It's a beautiful book. It's a new book. And I'm going to use this level is A1 plus, I believe. And it's from Unit 6. All right. And we're going to look at this spread, this great learners, great thinkers spread. So the title of this is Recycling and Upcycling. All right. And the social emotional skill is signposted very much here, so you know very clearly what we're trying to develop. And we're trying to develop the skill of being creative. All right. So the skill will fit in to one of the 5 key areas. In fact, it fits into pretty much all of the 5 key areas in different ways. And I'll show you how it does that in a moment, and how we can develop tasks that are able to bring out these elements of the social emotional learning as well. So my aim now is to show you how the book does this, and how you as a teacher can also adapt the lesson to incorporate this as well. So I'm going to give you some other activities that you can do, and hopefully you can take these activities to different levels, different age groups, and adapt them to your learners. So here you can see on the screen the signposting for the students, signposting for the teachers, and then in the teacher's guide on the right hand side, you can see there's full lesson plans to help you with social emotional learning, the teaching of it. All right. So it's very important that we as teachers have a guide to help us through these lessons, so that we know exactly what we're supposed to be doing when it comes to developing social emotional skills. And I think this is key as well. In the student's book itself, it makes learners aware of the importance. So if learners are aware of the importance, and you can get through to them that this is important to them, then they're more likely to engage with them, I think, as well. And they're hopefully happy that this part of their growing up and part of their development is being addressed as well by the teacher in fun, interesting ways. So the tasks I'm going to show you follow this pattern. So we'll have a look at some warmers. We're going to have a look at video activities. We'll have a look at a speaking maybe a reading, and then an activity after an extension activity. All right, so we've got 5 key areas. So let's have a look through them now. So here's the first section, and it's a speaking activity. And the question is, do you ever wear secondhand or recycled clothes? Why or why not? Where can you find secondhand clothes? Where you live. Now, in my experience, starting with a warmer based around the topic of the lesson is very useful, gets students engaged. And what you might do is do an activity where you look at the vocabulary that students might be needing, do a brainstorm, elicit the vocabulary. But what I want to do is try and bring this SEL into every single aspect of what we're trying to look at today. So I think we should do things and actually look at the topic. And the topic is upcycling. The topic is taking something that's old and then reusing it in a good way. Now, interestingly, I don't know if it's the same in Indonesia, but recycling clothes, it used to be something that people would never, ever do. If clothes were old, they used to throw them away. They never kind of recycle them. But recently, I've seen in recent years, there's much more, when you go to a local flea market or something like that, you'll see people selling secondhand clothes. It's much more common now. I'm quite interested to know why. And I'm just talking about during COVID. I'm talking like 5 years ago. But when I first came to Thailand, wearing secondhand clothes was definitely something that people would never do. And it's interesting to see that change in society. And I think that would be a nice way to start with this discussion with learners to see how they would feel about it. But looking at the vocabulary and developing a warmer around the vocabulary, I have these words here. These are all words that you would, some clothing words that I've selected. All right. Some of these you might recycle. Some of them you probably wouldn't. And we might discuss which of these items of clothing you might recycle and which you wouldn't. Commonly, recycling when I was a child with clothing was I've got 4 brothers and they are all older than me. So you can guess that I had to wear their clothes. As a child, I very, very rarely got any new clothes. All right, very rarely, because I always had to wear my brother's clothes. And I had 4 brothers and they always had extra clothes that I could have. So recycling clothes was always very, very common for me. But some of these things we wouldn't recycle, of course. Now, how could we use this list of words to develop social awareness in our learners? What could we do? Yes, Baggers, it is cheaper for sure. And it's better for the environment as well. Many reasons why we should recycle. How could we use this list of words? What could we do with it? Any ideas? I'll give you a minute to think about it. If you don't want to share, that's fine, but it'd be really nice to get your ideas. And specifically in the area of social awareness. All right, I think this is a good question. I'm not getting any answers in the chat. Oh, now, Hoodie, how could you use that to develop social awareness, though? All right, let's have a look. So I've created, and anybody who came to this session last week will have seen this idea. I've created a Venn diagram, all right? I love Venn diagrams, and that's why we're looking at it again. So if you came last week, great. You're going to look at this again. Okay, Perry Toto, yeah. As the students, which ones could be upcycled? Yep, that would be definitely a way to show that social awareness, and we could discuss why and why not. So could boots be upcycled? Well, I think so, if they're in good condition. But yeah, some of them couldn't, could they? But what I've done with it is I've decided to look at which clothes are for men and which clothes are for women. All right. So this social awareness, looking at the social norms of what men and women tend to wear. So boots, would you say they are male, female, or both? Masculine, feminine, or gender neutral? Both. Let's have a look. Yeah, I would imagine that boots are gender neutral, as these words that we're hearing in the parlance of our time. Coat, a coat, is that what do you think about that?
Both.
Yeah, of course it is. A dress?
Female.
Thank you, Donda. Yeah, I would think it would be female as well. Oh, sorry, bikini came up first. And a dress. The next one is a hoodie.
Both.
I hope these are in order.
Both.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And so on and so forth.
Charts. Waistcoat.
And we get through to these ideas. And then we could go into a discussion about whether this is correct or this is incorrect, or we just do get students to do it themselves and compare their diagrams, okay? But these are social norms, right? These are the kind of things that it would be normal to wear. And then we might look at this list of vocabulary and see which is normal for the country that we live in. So generally, do people wear waistcoats? I don't think I have ever seen a waistcoat when I've been to Indonesia. I don't see many hoodies. I don't know, it might not be the case, but we could talk again about our cultures as well. So I really love those Venn diagrams. They're really easy to use. You could also look at this list of words and have a Venn diagram where you might look at the gender, but you might look at the age group as well. So would an adult wear these clothes? Would a teenager wear these clothes? And see if there's any mix there. Again, to show the correlation between adults and teenagers in terms of the clothing that they wear. It's quite interesting. I have never seen a teenager wear a waistcoat, for example. And most adults don't wear hoodies. So you could do something like that as well. Also, what's great is the odd one out. Now, odd one out is a wonderful way to develop vocabulary and develop thinking. So what's the odd one out in this one? And you have to tell me why as well. You can't just say. So you can shout it out if you want to. Open your mics. Let me know. I do realize, Toto, is very sensitive, but I think it's a conversation we should have. I think this is why we want teenagers to learn about these and have these conversations, be able to show their emotions. I think that's fine. Again, if in your culture, it's not a conversation you think you should have, then you would choose that. I'm just giving you an example. That's all. I'm not saying you should do this activity. It's an example of an activity you can do with other vocabulary, for example. You could do it if you categorize on person's gender, let's say about sports, for example, then you can start having a discussion that it's not fair to exclude girls from some sports. You could start a whole debate about it, and it would be hopefully quite interesting. So that's the idea. Okay, Donda, dress. Okay, because it's for a female. Okay, good. Perfectly good answer, and you've given me a reason. This is the thing about odd one out. I think none of them, Fitri says, okay, good, that's fine to do as well. I think boots is the odd one out because it's the only one you wear on your feet. Okay, a hoodie is also the odd one out because it's the only one that goes over the head. All right, a coat could have a hood on it as well, but generally a coat doesn't. And you could have the argument. A coat could be the odd one out because it's the only one that you would wear in very, very cold weather. So you could have an argument that all of them are the odd one out. By having 4 different words that are all correct, you encourage children and students or teenagers to give their opinions because they're not afraid of making mistakes, because there are no mistakes. If they believe that, if they have come up with a reason why, then they're able to give an answer. So odd one out is a really nice way to develop that skill. The next one I'm going to do with a warmer activity is looking at designing a shirt. All right, so this is something that you could do to raise awareness, raise self-awareness of also using language. So you have a t-shirt on your handout, and what I'm going to do is do a dictation. Okay, I'm going to do a picture dictation. So here we have the t-shirt, and I'm going to ask you to draw a picture on the t-shirt. Now, my teenage learners, they're all very well prepared. They all have colored pencils next to them. I know you don't, probably, but if you do, then fine. If you have colored pencils, get them out now and I'll dictate it to you. So on the left-hand side of the t-shirt, as you look at your shirt, all right, the left-hand side, as you look at it, between the collar, this is the collar, and the sleeve here, there is a blue line from the top to the bottom, okay? On the right-hand side, as you look at your shirt, between the collar and the sleeve, there is a red line from the top to the bottom. On the right sleeve, as you look at your shirt, there are 2 blue stars. The collar of the shirt is green, and at the bottom of the shirt, there is a green semicircle between the red and the blue stripes. On the chest of the heart, there is a green triangle with a white circle. All right. So I've given you a description of the shirt, and what I want to do with my teenage learners, I would maybe go a bit slower. I'd give them time to write on the shirt and draw the actual description of the shirt. And I would then, with my weaker learners, I would give them the directions written down as well so they can check their answers. Okay, so once they've done this, they might then want to share their diagrams. If you're learning online, they could put them up to the screen. If they're in the classroom, even better, they can just show them to each other. Oh, I forgot the one. Yeah, in the middle of the shirt, there is the Macmillan logo. I should have said that. And then they can compare their answers to my picture, which is there. All right. So what I'm trying to do here is show them how a white t-shirt can become something quite beautiful, and they could design their own t-shirts and maybe get them made as well if they wanted to, using their old shirts. So these picture dictations, very easy to prepare, very, very fruitful. You have a listening activity. You also have a reading activity. You have a creative activity where they're drawing something. And then they can share as well, share their pictures and share their creativity. The next thing we're going to look at is the video activities. So we have these video activities that you can see on the sheet here. They're fully developed to take learners through the pre-listening, while listening, and post-listening. But first of all, why should we use video in the classroom? And I'll go through this with you. This is all about social awareness for me. Great thing about videos is they engage students, and they're very they encourage differentiation because the students are listening, they're looking, and they're also probably doing some tasks at the same time. It's easier for them to understand the context. So stronger students will get a lot of it, but weaker students can get more information, different inputs. They use authentic content, which again is engaging for learners. Authentic, it's real. It's not something that's just made up for the classroom. As I said, different input. It's not just reading and listening. It's images, it's visual, it's exciting for learners. That context is there, as I said, to help understanding and help those different abilities. We have different languages and culture. Now, when I'm talking about language, I mean functional language, different ways of getting things done in English, as well as just learning grammar and vocabulary. They're looking maybe at some areas of slang and the way that different people speak, also different accents as well. And then that model of communication, they're providing students with a way of seeing somebody else communicate in a real life situation. So these are the reasons I believe are really useful for students to use video. And if you're not using video, try and find some. There's loads out there if you're not using Gateway to the World. So how do we do this in practice? Well, we can do activities, pre-watching activities. So definitely prediction activities are very good for this. So what we might do is I will watch the video before as a teacher, and I make screenshots of different parts of the video. And what I want my students to do now is tell me what they think they can see, and to build a picture about what this video is going to be about before they watch it. To support them, I'm going to give them language, I'm going to give them words to help and support them as they talk about the video. And then we will watch the video and check out ideas. So this screenshot idea is very easy to do with technology that we have now. Pretty much every laptop has got a Clip-It software or some screen grab software where you can do this and prepare very simply these really nice prediction activities. While we watch, we want to engage our learners. All right, we don't just want to watch the video and answer the questions, because that's what we always do. Let's think of something different. So while we watch, we're going to do this split watching. So we turn down, we put students into pairs. We get the video up. We start the video, but notice there is no sound. All right. And also notice that student A is looking at the video and student B is not watching the video. Student B has their back turned to the video. All right. So you play the video for a short while. Student A watches and at the same time tells student B what they are seeing. So a girl in colorful clothing is walking down the street. Student B will listen to student A and they write down what they can hear, and then they will swap roles. Student B will look at the screen, student A will write down, and back and forth. And then at the end, they can watch the video together and compare their notes and see if they've got the similar idea to what they have seen on the screen. So it's a nice way of breaking up the video, of breaking up into different parts so it's easier to understand, but also a nice way of getting learners to engage with the content of the video. Post-watching. With post-watching, we can use the video script, which I have here. Now, last week, I told you a really good activity where you will read this to the learners and make some mistakes, all right? I have a different activity for you today, and this one is called Synonymize This, all right? What I'd like you to do, on your handout, you will see there is a chance for you to write this sentence. Take a walk down Cowley Road in Oxford. It's the main shopping street in the area. If you're lucky, you'll see Chloe. She's easy to spot, right? So can you write this sentence in a different way without changing the meaning too much? All right. So you're going to rewrite the sentence, rewrite the script in a different way without changing the meaning. So if you think about take a walk, what could you change that to? So walk, is there a synonym for walk? Is there another word that you could use that means the same as walk? You might say something like this. I'll put it in the chat. Go for a stroll is the same as take a walk. Now, Fitri, hang out is great. I like it. Hang out down Cowley Road in Oxford. This would be a nice way of doing it. So I'll give you just a minute just to think about that, and you can write some notes on your handout, and then I'll show you what I have done. Now, depending on the level of learners as well, you might take out the verbs and ask them just to come up with the synonyms for the verbs. You might have to take out the nouns and come up with synonyms just for the nouns. You might simplify it. But because we're teachers, I want you to synonymize it all. I'm still not sure if synonymize is a word, but it is today. This is a really nice way of developing language. You wouldn't do it for the whole script, just for one or two bits of the script. And we'll see if you want to put it in the chat, you can, but if you don't want to, don't worry. And we'll see if you've got a similar ideas to me in a moment. Good way of raising awareness of synonyms, of course. Giving students an opportunity to look in a thesaurus, a dictionary of synonyms, not a dictionary, of course. All right, so I'll show you my ideas, and we'll see if you've got a similar idea to me. So there's my ideas. Go for a stroll along Queen Street in London. It's the most important road for shops in this part of the city. You might be fortunate and catch sight of Jane. She's unmissable, correct? All right, so you can see there what I've done and how I've synonymized that. Now, obviously, I'm a teacher. I can do this quite comfortably. As I said, you wouldn't want the learners maybe to synonymize it all. You might want to take out one sentence. As I said, you might want to break it down into just the verbs, just the main verbs, or just the nouns. It's up to you how you would do this, but it's a really nice way to engage with the script after you've done a video lesson. So how are you feeling now? Feeling okay? Not long to go now, half an hour. Valentina, how are you feeling? Are you still feeling bad? Thunder's good. Toto's great. Okay, good. Not long to go now. You can go and have your dinner. Awesome. Excellent. Okay, lovely. Okay, so that finishes our kind of video activities. Let's have a look now as we go through at the visible thinking routine. So you remember from last week, if you joined the session last week, 2 weeks ago, I should say, we looked a little bit at visible thinking routines, and you can see here how visible thinking routines are embedded into the course as part of this Great Thinkers section. Just a little recap of what thinking routines are, visible thinking routines are. They are simple concept. It's a very simple concept. Sets of questions or sequences of steps which get students thinking about a topic while providing them with opportunities to speak, work together, and share their ideas. This place here is Harvard University. Project Zero is the place where they would, or the initiative that was developed at Harvard to develop these thinking routines. Last week, we looked at the thinking routine of claim, support, and question. And today we're going to look at the thinking routine of see, think, and wonder. All right, it's very, very simple thinking routine. So what we're looking at is in this activity, in activity 4, students have to draw a picture of something that they want to upcycle, something they want to take that's old, make it into something new, and recycle or upcycle the thing that they have at home. And they draw a picture, and then they show the picture to their friends, and their friends complete this activity. What do they see? What do they think the object is for? And what do you wonder? So within these categories, you might want to support your learners' thinking. So what do you see? Okay, and within that, there are questions. What size is it? What shape is it? What material is it? What color is it? If you think about what do you think the object is for? What's its purpose? And then what do you wonder? There might be many things you wonder. Why did you choose that? What does it cost? Who is it for? And how do you use it? All right, so these are different other questions that you as a teacher can ask to develop these ideas. So how do we put it into practice? Well, what we can do is we can do a dialogue build, all right? So 2 students working together, and you might build a dialogue. So you show a picture to the students. Here you can see a picture of a fork, all right? And the fork is bent, right? Not much use, right? The fork. But it is very, very useful, all right? Let me see. So we're going to build this dialogue. So on the board, I'm going to write, what do you see? And get it from the students. So what do you see? I can see a bent fork, all right? And this is what the students are saying. Students are B, teacher is A. What color and size is it? All right, so my students are giving me the answers. I'm writing it on the board. I'm building up this dialogue. All right, next question. Next question. And this is where we get a bit of creativity coming in. So what do you think it's for? It used to be for eating, all right, but now it's bent. Maybe gardening, maybe combing my hair. This is all ideas that the students would give you. And what do you wonder? How did it get bent? Why did you bend it? And what it's used for? It's now a key holder, all right? And then we have an example of the key holder on the wall, and then they look at their partners, all right? So they're building up these dialogues with each other, okay? And then we would practice the dialogues. They would practice. You would, as a teacher, you would wander around. You would be thinking about pronunciation. You might stop them, put them into different pairs. You might provide some correction and then get them together again. There's lots of many ways that you could do this. But once you get this dialogue together and the class are practicing it, then they can start building their own dialogues. Now, what could you then do with the dialogue? So what we have is the dialogue here, all right, all nicely done. And as I said, you've practiced with the students, you've modeled it, you've gone through the pronunciation, you've gone through the meanings, and they practiced together. Now they change partners and you take away some of the sentences, all right? This is on the board. You take away some of the sentences. The learners are now doing it again. What do you see? So what do you see? Anybody? What do you see?
A bent fork.
A bent fork. Let's have a check. I can see a bent fork. Yeah. It's silver and normal size for a fork. What's the question? It's made from steel. So the question is, what's it made from? And the students then build up the dialogue again. They practice again, change partners. You take away more until you get to nothing. But the students are so trained and they've gone through the dialogue 4 or 5 times. They'll be able to complete the dialogue with the help of each other. So they've got this building relationships. If you find it too easy, you can go back. You can add words. And it's a really great way of showing a sense of progress, a sense of achievement, because the students will be able to complete this dialogue with each other by not reading anything and just from their memory. And it's a really nice way, as I said, to show that sense of progress. Moving on, we now go into the reading section. So the reading section is a very short section, so easy to manage. And it's all about, again, the topic of creativity. And we're looking here at responsible decision making. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to look at a technique called investigate. So this idea is asking questions to build their critical thinking skills. So have a quick read of this. I'll give you 1 minute just to quickly read this yourself. All right, quickly read it. Fantastic. Okay, so investigate. So what we're going to do is we're going to use questions from the student's book, which are probably going to be comprehension questions. We'll answer those questions, develop our understanding, our comprehension of the text, but that's probably about it. So what we can do is use these questions, such as who wrote the text? Do you know who wrote the text? And we don't know who wrote the text, right? It's in the book, but we don't really know who wrote it. It says here are some tips from creativity experts. So we could say it's written by creativity experts. That might be an answer. But we might want to find out, really, before we believe something, who actually wrote what we believe. Why did they write it? Because they want me to become better at being creative. All right. What do they want you to think, believe, buy, or do? Is there anything there that they want me to do? They want me to go to nature. They want me to be more creative. So you can see that these questions are much deeper in terms of understanding the text itself as a thing to get information across, rather than it just being a test of my reading ability. It's actually now getting me to understand why people write. It's getting me to question what they're doing. The next, are there any? Probably not in a gateway to the world A1 plus. There's no really any hidden messages there, but it gets students thinking about this. Is there any evidence against the message? So my homework might be, look at the idea of being creative, and can you think of any argument against this? Can you think of anything that from researching online where there's a different point of view? So it encourages learners not just to believe the first thing that they read or the first thing that they hear. They're questioning, they're finding out the information from research and understanding it better. So I love this kind of questioning rather than just a question about the comprehension. And what techniques I use to attract my attention. So it might be the font. The font creative is nicely bright and white, and it's on a blue background. It's a different text, a different font. So that might be something that attracts me rather than it being a single bold font. So all these ways of looking at text and finding out, answering these difficult questions could be interesting for learners to get a deeper understanding of our texts. This is particularly useful for older learners who may be moving from secondary school into a university setting where they have to be much more critical about what they read and what they write as well. The next part is looking at an extension task. So in activity 4, I ask you to draw the result of something that you're going to upcycle at home. But what we're going to do is change that to get them to make it. And here are some examples of what you could do with upcycling at home. So we've got an old bottle that you could make into a pot for your pens. We've got an old bottle that you could turn into a plant pot, and some old heavy duty bags that used to carry cement. You make them into a nice tote bag. These are different ways of upcycling. Raises social awareness greatly, shows them the kind of being creative and the kind of things that they're doing. And students get to choose. Giving them a choice is another way of self-management and helping them with that. So make sure you give them a choice of things to do. And you might want to give them a contract, all right? And a contract, again, is something related to that self-management. It allows them to make their own decisions. They set the deadline. As long as the deadline is agreed by you and the students, it would be fine. But it's a really nice thing. Giving teenagers a contract for things that they have to do is a nice way to get them to, as I said, to manage themselves, but also to be responsible learners and build their autonomy, their self-autonomy. So just to recap, whoops. So here we have our lovely students, and they are in the middle, and then building them, making them become whole children by developing this social emotional learning is really important. It's not just about emotions, though. As I said, it's about building skills, making good choices, managing relationships. But these emotions are going to be firing in different ways, and if we can manage them and help them through our materials and through our teaching, we will have well-rounded well-rounded secondary students. How are you feeling now? Okay, good. Happy. Okay, good. I'm glad nobody's sad. Although it might be, if you are feeling mad or sad, you're not telling me because your social awareness is so great that you wouldn't tell somebody else that you're feeling that way after they've just given a presentation. So thank you for your social awareness being so strong. Okay, great.